The Greens and the Coalition have united today to successfully reject Labor's $10 billion housing policy in the Senate by postponing the vote until October. This high-stakes bill was the centrepiece of Labor's election campaign, and not being able to pass its own bill through the Senate is a pretty big blow. Let me explain what's going on with this unusual alliance. Labor's Housing Australia Future Fund bill would establish a $10 billion fund for social and affordable housing, and at least $500 million a year over 5 years would be spent on building social homes. But given the housing and cost of living crises, it's faced criticism, most vocally from the Greens, who say it's not good enough. So firstly, the builds aren't scheduled to begin until 2025, and the government says 30,000 homes would be built in the first 5 years, so by 2030. But the Greens say we need at least double this now to even begin to address the backlog of need. And the Greens, who hold the balance of power in the Senate, which means Labor needs them to vote with them to pass bills, have basically come to the table with a list of demands to make the bill better, or else they won't vote for it. Those demands started out with increasing the $500 million a year spend to $5 billion a year, plus an extra $1.6 billion a year to go to state government housing programs, and a 2.5-year freeze on rent increases nationwide and capped increases after. After months of back and forth, the Greens wound back their demands earlier this month and said they would pass Labor's housing bill if Labor agreed to a $2.5 billion annual spend on building homes and a 1-year rent freeze. On Saturday, the federal government came back and announced it would spend an additional one-off $2 billion, not part of its original budget, to go towards expanding and renovating existing social housing stock, or it can be used for new builds too. And that money will be divided between the states based on need and population and handed out in the next fortnight. The Greens took this as a win and said it's proof that their pressure on the government is paying off. So they pushed it one step further and, with the help of the Coalition, who's obviously not going to vote with Labor regardless, voted the bill down with the hopes of negotiating better legislation for renters in particular, and they argue they haven't rejected the bill, just deferred it until October. They said they would continue to push the government to introduce a rent freeze and commit more money to building social and affordable homes. After all, scrapping the Stage 3 tax cuts could pay for everything.